one of the items that the council has cited as an item they want to address, so.
I
But
don't
yeah.
know exactly if all of the council has said that, so I think there's some that have, some that haven't really stated anything on it, so I don't know that it hit a consensus yet that we want to do something on it. Just because one counselor mentions it at a meeting doesn't mean necessarily we need to do something. Just because one counselor gets a couple people to say things in public comment doesn't necessarily mean the public's screaming for it either.
All right, Mr. D. The floor, sir.
So, there has been in social media, several local papers, and in other meetings, there's been a lot of talk and rumblings about impact fees. My question is, does that conversation start here, or is it strictly a town council function? Kelly?
I think it should, sorry, I was saving that. I believe it should start here. I think that the planning board should be providing input to the council on this, on impact fees. Yes, the council has made it clear that it's and Councilor Faber can chime in if I'm off base here, but it's one of the items that the council has cited as an item they want to address, so.
I don't
But
know
yeah.
exactly if all of the council has said that, so I think there's some that have, some that haven't really stated anything on it, so I don't know that it hit a consensus yet that we want to do something on it.
Yeah, and so to
He
that
used the
point,
big C word, yeah.
what's that?
He used the big C word.
Yeah.
I would want to, as one person, I would want to act in a motion that the council would be supporting. I don't want to propose something that maybe the council necessarily wouldn't support. Then we have spent a lot of staff time and resources on something that would get to where it needs to go just to say no. So much like the PUD, I would want a consensus from the council as to what the council's expectation is. From there, I'd be more than happy to work on
That makes sense.
it if there is anything that the council would
Yeah,
like
and
to work
I guess that's, when you ask where should it start, it's kind of,
It starts at the
The
board, but I would want
yeah.
the,
It
Yeah.
starts
Yeah.
there and goes backwards and then goes back.
yeah, just
back to the
their
beginning.
meeting from a consensus standpoint, so that we're not spending time that is on something that's not gonna go anywhere, because ultimately they have the say.
And how do you even do that? Now, in Lynn's case, with this item that we just pushed forward, it came out of Utilities Committee, correct?
Yeah. Ad hoc
So,
of the
so you
council.
had a basis and whatever. How would we even start that conversation?
For
Is
impact
there like a
fees,
subcommittee, or is it work that the staff does and then presents to this board?
start the conversation here about impact fees?
Yeah, if it's, yeah, let's run it out. The council has a consensus and says to the planning board, we want you to look into it. Or
Yep.
we want a recommendation from you.
Yep.
What happens then? Next.
So I would prepare, a summary document and give you a presentation overview about procedurally what that means. And then ultimately with impact fees, we would need to put out a request to understand the cost of a study to then come to a conclusion about what those fees should or shouldn't be. So that you have a base point for what fees you're actually adopting. But first, we should have a discussion about the procedural process and a general discussion about what fees you want to, or you think are appropriate to apply. So you could have anything from traffic, rec, school, police, fire. Do you want all of those? Does the planning board view all of those topics or
Stop signs?
as fees you would like to see included if we were to do an analysis to try and capture what
Traffic
those.
calming measures?
Yeah, so it would kind of be a more general
Okay,
discussion to get a consensus from you all to
Okay.
then bring to the council, but I mean, that's how I think it should go, but
It probably would be good for the board to review RSA 674:21 because it
Every-
details on how to do it in
The
there.
Rain Man is in the house. He does it every
The
time.
state tells us everything, you know?
does
Says
it
you're gonna
every
tell us
time.
more.
So is there a consensus here
From
amongst
the
this
board to ask
To
for
get
a
a consensus?
consensus?
Yeah,
A consensus for a consensus?
I mean, do we want to, I mean, there is some noise, I just wanna figure out what,
I think-
because people are gonna be screaming, again, the planning board doesn't do anything.
I think we can discuss it,
Yeah.
and I think we can come back to you. I mean, it's, you know, we've been in communication with the planning board too as well. So it's, just because one counselor mentions it at a meeting doesn't mean necessarily we need to do something. Just because one counselor gets a couple people to say things in public comment doesn't necessarily mean the public's screaming for it either.
Understood?
There's a lot of meta things to this in a bigger picture that I think we've got to discuss. But since this came up, I'll make sure that we, at least at some level, have some kind of conversation about it.
Sure, and I would add to that to help them understand that it's gonna cost money to make money.
Yes. And that's part of this too. And I'm glad this discussion is going this way because you just don't go, I want this. The next meeting we vote on it and there it is. We've got to come up with a proper way to do things. And we didn't do things the proper way before in this town, and that got us into a lot of trouble. So if we go down this road, I want to make sure it's the right way for the right things, for the right reasons, and has the expected impact, because that's half of it too. There's people that think this is a magic bullet that's going to solve all these problems. Not necessarily. And so we've got to look at what's the intent, as Kelly said, and why do we, you know, what are we going to get out of it and make sure we achieve those.
So what are you trying to solve?
Yeah,
What are you
instead of
trying
just
to
making
fix?
false promises or it's a panacea. I get really nervous every time someone thinks it's going to be a silver bullet for everything in the town.
You know, it's actually very complex.
Yes.
And the problem the town got into was in the application of it. It just was not done properly.
Well, and some of the people who are talking about impact fees are, well, we shouldn't build another thing in town, but we should have impact fees. Well, impact fees happen on new things in town. So these two things don't go together.
Yeah, but there's gotta be a discussion of it anyway,
Yes.
just to, you know, see what we really want and
Yep.
what it can really do.
Yeah, we got 51 minutes left, we can beat
Nope.
this to death if you want.
Thank you, Mr. Faber, I appreciate it, sir.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.